UN forces trapped in a Muslim enclave. As their two-day summit ended, France and Britain backed away from an earlier plan to issue an ultimatum to the Serbs. A changing of the guard took place in Macedonia as soldiers from the 3rd Infantry Division replaced Berlin Brigade soldiers guarding the border. AFN's Rick Haverinen has this report from Skopje.
2 U.S. infantry regiments exchanged command duties for the second time recently. Some years ago, units of the 6th Infantry Regiment turned over the responsibility of defending Berlin to the 502nd Infantry Regiment. Recently, these same regiments met again, but this time for a changeover ceremony in the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, when members of the Berlin Brigade, designated as U.S. Task Force 6 of the 502nd Infantry, turned over their United Nations observational and reporting duties to the 1st Battalion, 6th Infantry from Vilseck, Germany. U.S. Task Force 6 of the 502nd Infantry, primarily made up of Berlin Brigade troops, is returning home after completing a 6-month tour with Operation Able Sentry, which was named in recognition of the Berlin Brigade's history. The primary mission of Operation Able Sentry is to act as peacekeepers by observing the border with Serbia to the north of Macedonia and to report any military activity to the United Nations. Commander of the outgoing unit, Lieutenant Colonel Walter L. Holton, thanked his men for their performance as peacekeepers and wished the best of continued success to U.S. Task Force 1st of the 6th Infantry and its commander, Lieutenant Colonel Carter F. Ham. Colonel Ham began his remarks by reflecting on his regiment's earlier relationship with the 502nd and expressed his commitment to continue with the good work established by the Berlin Brigade. In the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, this is Rick Haverinen with Operation Able Sentry for AFN News.
Because of that change, the Berlin military community welcomed back soldiers of Task Force 6 of the 502nd from duty in Macedonia. Army Sergeant Hank Minitrez was there and files this report.
It's time for the task force's entry. The crowd hummed along with the 298th Army Band as a sea of blue berets marched in front of the stands. Chills ran up spines as Task Force Commander Lieutenant Colonel Walter Holton reported in.
Sir, mission's complete.
Welcome home, Walter.
Thank you, sir.
As Berlin's community commander, Major General Walter Yates pointed out in his remarks, this was not the time for long speeches. After comments from General David Maddox, the USARA commander-in-chief, and Zeelandorf District Mayor Ulrich Menzel, the soldiers marched off the parade field to the reception. For many, this was a time of reunification.
How's it feel to have him back?
Good.
Why?
Just fun with the kids.
Tell me who this is.
This is Alan Oxford Johnson. He was born on August 16th with my wonderful wife Jennifer while I was in Macedonia.
And how are you glad to have him back?
Very. I've been waiting for 6 months.
During their deployment, the soldiers were consistently in the media's eye. First Lieutenant Ed Sudzina of the Scout Platoon was seen on television at one point talking about his dog, Ranger, which in turn got a lot of laughs from his fellow soldiers.
So did you find Ranger with the antlers on?
Yes, Ranger was home with the antlers on. I want you to know, even though I was gone for 6 months, his loyalty still lies with me because blood is thicker than water, I guess. My wife's a little upset about that. But believe it or not, I'm more happy than anything to see my wife. That's the most important thing to me. But most people don't know that. They think that I miss my dog more. Not true at all.
All kidding aside, everyone does agree it's great to have the soldiers back.
It feels real great to be back. The unit, the 6th Battalion here, the Family Support Group, the members of Zeelandorf, they've all done a superb job in making preparation for our return. We had a very safe return, a safe transition, smooth transition, safe return back to Berlin, and it was a beautiful ceremony.
I just think it's great to have them back. I think that, 179 days ago when we sent them off, it was a new mission. I think a lot of people questioned our ability to perform that kind of a job. I mean, we didn't, but others did. And I think that they have come back to show what quality soldiers and good units can do, and I'm just very proud to have them back.
After unpacking from this trip, they'll pack up again, this time for good, as the Berlin American military community completely draws down in the coming months. But for now, it's a time of rejoicing. With their mission complete, the soldiers are home. Army Sergeant Hank Minitrez, AFN News.
In his interview with ABC News, USARO Commander-in-Chief General David Maddox was asked about the changing mission of his command with the end of the Cold War.
With all the euphoria of the wall coming down and the end of the Soviet Union, the Warsaw Pact, something else changed that I'm not sure I saw, at least, as it was occurring, and that is that when we were bipolar, national, ethnic, religious interests were suppressed by the magnitude of a potential conflict of two opposing forces. And as that went away, we've now got everybody out trying to figure out, where do I fit today? And so you've now got national rivalries, ethnic rivalries, religious ones, and it's a very unstable place. And I think our biggest challenge today is not keepers of the peace in the Cold War sense of keepers of the peace, but as a vehicle to spread stability where there's instability today.
Horn opened this year's Grunovoka, or Green Week. This agriculture, horticulture, and food fair brings 2,000 exhibitions from 54 countries together at the Berlin Messe each year. Stretching out through 25 halls, you can easily spend an entire day looking, eating, and drinking your way around this United Nations of exhibits. Food seemed to be the main focus at Green Week, and there was plenty of it. From fruits to meats to sweets. And there was no shortage of drink to go with the great food either. Food and drink without a little music. Check out the singing Danish chefs. Your stomach will definitely be full after a day at the fair, but be careful. With all the great food, you don't want to end up feeling down in the mouth. Reporting from the International Green Week in Berlin, Germany, Sergeant Kelly Rowe, AFN News.
And that's the morning news for Hillary Clinton. Specialist Lee Allen reports.
The team is in Belarus on the first leg of a humanitarian aid mission delivering excess medical equipment and supplies to the former Soviet Republic. Children's Hospital No. 4 was the first facility to receive the aid, and Mrs. Clinton was there to witness the historic event. Belarusian First Lady Irina Shishkevich toured the hospital with Mrs. Clinton and introduced her to the children.
Got here today. This box of supplies will make a very big difference to the lives of the children in this hospital. So we not only have a strong relationship between our two countries, but we also have a growing, strong relationship between hospitals and universities in our country and hospitals and universities here in the Republic. I think that is very exciting, and it's exactly the kind of cooperation that my husband is trying to promote, which I think will pay off for both of our countries.
The supplies are part of a total $700,000 medical inventory being distributed to 3 hospitals in the capital city. Before leaving, Mrs. Clinton shook hands with each member of the Provide Hope team, personally thanking them for their hard work. Reporting from Minsk, Belarus, I'm Specialist Lee Allen, AFN News.
American military forces have seen many changes throughout the past year due to the drawdown. As a result, the services are growing more interdependent on each other to maintain successful operations abroad. Airman Melissa Bacorn has more.
A prime example is the combined efforts of the Joint Special Operations Task Forces known as JSOTF, currently supporting worldwide operations. JSOTF brings together the best of Navy, Army, and Air Force personnel to combine their skills in completing a common goal. As bases continue to close around the globe, these immediate action units are at maximum deployment. It doesn't look like the demand for JSOTF units will decrease soon.
We don't see our role diminishing at all for the foreseeable future. As other units continue to draw down, I think our role will continue to be very viable, will continue to be used over and over, and if not here, someplace else in Africa or even in some of the former Soviet countries. We've done some mill-to-mill work there. So our role is by no means going to diminish.
Colonel Orrell points out that JSOTF units are financially appealing in a time when the Defense Department's budget is getting hit hard by the Clinton administration.
Absolutely, we get more bang for the buck. It's a good, solid use of the taxpayer dollars and the manpower and the woman-power resources we have available to us. Like you mentioned, we use this oil in Panama and in the desert, and of course we're using it now. The JSOTF having a single commander, and it's worked very, very well.
Having one commander for the combined services cuts down red tape and errors in communication, while combining the best skills of each service into one. Under one commander, the three different services work with each other and not against each other, as might happen if they had three different commanders. Reporting from San Vito Air Station, I'm Airman Melissa Bacorn, AFN News.
The U.S. flag was lowered for the last time on Sickels Army Airfield in Fulda, Germany. Senior Airman Tricia Herne has the story.
Since the fall of the Iron Curtain, it was obvious that the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment would no longer be needed, their mission complete. The 4th Aviation Squadron of the 11th ACR in Fulda formally said goodbye. A small but meaningful ceremony took place on the barren flight line. As cold winds and rain pelted onlookers, the squadron's flag was cased and the American flag lowered for the last time. Sergeant Brian Alsop found it hard to say goodbye.
It felt pretty sad to me. You know, I've been here a long time. I've seen a lot of stuff, and I can't believe the airfield's going away.
The airfield is now just empty space, but hope still remains in the heart of Helmut Detter, a German air traffic controller who has worked with 4th Squadron for the past 11 years.
We hope in future that we are going to have a little civilian airfield here, and we might see probably many American friends again later here.
It's hard to believe that the now desolate airfield was once the 10th largest air force in the world. The last helicopter left last December, shortly after most of the remaining 100 or so soldiers packed up as well. Airman Tricia Herne, AFN News.
The last page in a chapter of history was written when the final 3 F-15s left Soesterberg Airbase, the Netherlands, bound for their new home at Otis Air National Guard Base, Massachusetts. Air Force Sergeant Michelle Clougher has details.
Members of both the Dutch and U.S. Air Forces, local community leaders, and members of the press gathered at the 32nd Fighter Squadron's alert facility, otherwise known as the Zulu Hangar, to witness the end of an era of excellence.
Keeping with that tradition of excellence, the men and women of this air base, both Dutch and American, have done superbly well in their actions to support the drawdown and the closure and the departure of these fine fighters that we see out in front of me today.
As for the Royal Netherlands Air Force, General Downer, we have almost come to think of the Wolfhounds as a part of us. We have applauded its achievements with the warm pride you feel when one of your own achieves excellence. From an operational point of view, I can say, also from my personal experience, that 32nd Fighter Group has always acquitted itself extremely well of its dedicated air defense task.
I'd like to speak on behalf of all the Americans at Soesterberg Air Base, both past and present. It has been only with your friendship and help, with your outstanding military cooperation, and with your patience, and quite often with your tolerance, that this incredible 40-year era of U.S. aircraft operating jointly with you in the skies over Holland has been possible. Our heritage is now and will forever be intertwined into history with the proud Dutch heritage and traditions. I express my heartfelt appreciation and gratitude to you all. Thank you very much.
Following a flyover by helicopters from the Royal Netherlands Air Force, the F-15s took off for the last time. They were joined by F-16s from the RNLAF for a final flyby. From Soesterberg Airbase, the Netherlands, Air Force Sergeant Michelle Clougher, Air Force News.
Some say as long as sailors go to sea, they will carry a melody across the
engagement with former adversaries who are now reaching out and say, we want to be your partners, we want to be your friends, and we're going to be working with them in the months ahead and the years ahead to develop the same mutual trust and confidence that exists with the other member nations of NATO. That's a good mission.
Excess equipment being redistributed out of the European theater is finding its way to our NATO allies and also is being used as foreign military sales. In part 3 of her series on Retro-Euro, 21st TACOM's Gail McCabe shows us how USER's drawdown excess is also a big part of the Army's new military strategy.
The ongoing movement of drawdown puts unit turn-ins high on the inventory list. As inactivations and closures reduce the military population, the materiel left behind plays an important role in new military strategy. One high-profile program under development is known as Prepo Afloat. Prepo Afloat calls for the most modern, top-of-the-line combat equipment available, like these pieces here. They used to belong to the 3rd Infantry Division. Now they're part of the Retro-Euro program. They've been identified, and they're on their way to becoming part of the Army's new global positioning strategy.
Prepo Afloat is the Army's initiative to get a brigade combat team pre-positioned on ships so that it's highly mobile, so that we can bring soldiers from the States, link up with that equipment anywhere in the world, and be prepared to fight a war.
Once manifested on a Prepo ship, the equipment is set to travel the seas for 30 months before its first maintenance cycle. The soldiers tagged to use these floating brigades are from the Konus-based 3rd Army. As the fighting force that will be using this equipment in a crisis situation, soldiers from the 3rd Army are intimately involved, making sure that what they get works.
Once we inspect these, they have to be ready, war-capable, combat-capable, to come off of a ship into a port, and then they'll go ahead and they'll use them. So they have to be basically ready to drive off and go to combat.
The Retro-Euro program encompasses everything, from the big to the small. If it shows on the inventory list, it gets moved out.
It's a lot, but it has to be done.
In the Cold War arsenal that populates the European theater, some dates back to the 1950s. Others aren't worth the cost to repair. But even here, the Retro-Euro program has a system in place. What it is in our next report. In Kaiserslautern, Germany, Gail McCabe, 21st TACOM.
Soldiers from the Czech Republic got a chance to learn about American chemical training and see how American soldiers live during a visit to Vilseck, Germany. AFN's Bob Karr has this report on that visit.
6 Czech Republic soldiers were briefed on chemical training by Vilseck's 95th Chemical Company. It's the first time former Eastern Bloc soldiers have trained with Americans. It's planned to expand this exchange in the future by sending platoon-sized units to each other's country.
We're hoping to learn of their army, of a former Warsaw Pact army, how they conducted their operations in chemical unit, and also exchange ideas on how we do it. And maybe we could take the best of both ideas and incorporate some of the things. Maybe they can learn from us and we can learn some things from them.
Last month, 5 officers of 3rd Corps Command's 95th Chemical Company traveled to Liberec in the Czech Republic to experience a soldier's life there. This month, it was the Czech Republic officers who experienced an American soldier's life, including eating meals ready to eat.
They were delicious, tasteful. And I was always surprised by the variety of all kinds of meals. And also, I was surprised the variety of or quantity of different packets with food.
The 95th Chemical Company's former commander initiated the idea about a year ago to form a friendship unit exchange with the Czech Republic military unit. After running it through channels, the idea took fruition, with the Czech officers being given an orientation on the 95th Chemical Unit's mission and equipment. In Vilseck, Bob Karr, AFN News.
The total force concept of the Air Force means that active duty, reserve, and civilian components work together for a single mission. That concept is demonstrated at Aviano Air Base in Italy as Air National Guard, Air Force Reserve, and active duty work side by side in Operation Deny Flight with a single mission, patrolling the skies over Bosnia-Herzegovina. Air Force Sergeant Harry Lockley reports on that combined effort.
As the Air Force, along with the rest of the military, continues to draw down, the role of the Guard and the Reserve is increasing. From the war with Iraq to today's operations, these part-timers are seen more and more beside their full-time active-duty counterparts.
From Desert Storm to deny flight, to provide Comfort 1, provide Comfort 2. We got people in the Antarctic. We got people in drug war down in the Caribbean. We have Guardsmen and Reservists side by side with our active-duty counterparts all over the world.
The benefit of maintaining ready reserve for such operations comes down to money, an increasingly important factor with the decreasing Pentagon budget. Active duty people receive full paychecks 12 months out of the year, but Guard and Reserve only get paid when they train or they're called to active duty. Thus, a force of ready reserve troops can be maintained at a fraction of the cost of full-time active duty personnel. But there can be limitations to that approach.
My only concern is that we don't go to the well too often. In other words, we need plenty of lead time so that our people can get off from their employers and not destroy that relationship.
Having the active duty and the reserve component working side by side in operations such as deny flight shows that the total force concept of the Air Force works in the real world. From Aviano Air Base, Italy, Sergeant Harry Lockley, Air Force News.
According to the Inspector General of the Army, trips made to installations outside of the United States, like his recent stopover in Kaiserslautern, Germany, offers invaluable insight into...
It was very rough. Well, it was not as rough, of course, as Normandy, but it was my first landing, and so it was rough. I mean, I wasn't a fighting man. I had a pencil, but even so, I saw a lot of casualties and so on.
January 22nd, 1944. At the urging of Prime Minister Winston Churchill, a British and American force of 2 divisions hit the beaches at Anzio and Nettuno.
And we were bombed by German Messerschmitts when we came into the shores. We lost 1 ship with a bomb dropped upon it, and the remainder of us went approximately 1 kilometer inland to a wooded area, assembled there, and then moved out on the orders of 3rd Division, which we were attached to.
Dubbed Operation Shingle, the Anzio landing concluded June 4th, 1944, with the fall of Rome. Thousands of American and British servicemen were killed or wounded during the operation.
And General Truscott had talked to us over at Naples. He said, now some of you men, we're going in to Anzio to land. Some of you men said, forget your wives, forget your girlfriends, forget your family back home, because some of you are not coming back. And said, you're going there, you fight, you kill or be killed.
British casualties of the invasion are buried in war cemeteries in Anzio, and American servicemen killed in the Italian campaign are interred at the Sicily-Rome American Cemetery in Nettuno. Italian and American officials paid their respects on the 50th anniversary of the invasion. Veterans of Operation Shingle also participated in the ceremonies and took time to reflect on both the horrors of the war and the joys that accompanied it.
We went to England. It was always the pubs, you know, and the good times. Even though we were in Naples, when we had fought and taken Naples, we were in there the first day, liberated that. The theaters, we have opened the theaters up and the USO shows and so forth. It was a good time during the war. And you even had an opportunity to throw some unit parties. But you always had hanging over you at a moment's notice you would be organized to be placed into the front battle lines, front zones, or parachute drop.
Reporting from Anzio and Nettuno, I'm Air Force Sergeant Rich Simonsen, AFN News.
Tech Sergeant Celinda Larrabee is doing her other job for 5th Corps as part of Detachment 8, 7th Weather Squadron. She's getting ready to go to the field as part of the warfighter exercise. But even in her absence, we have your weather forecast.
Tonight, all areas in Greece and Turkey can expect periods of rain with snow in the mountains and breezy winds. The precipitation will continue tomorrow in all of Turkey, while Greece enjoys gradual clearing throughout the day. No weather problems are expected.
Those drugs are the Frankfurt Zollamt, or Customs Police, and they get a little help sniffing out those drugs. The Zollamt have 18 dogs working for them, and they've got a tough job.
Possibilities for smuggling drugs and air transport are getting greater than ever before. More airlines are now flying. New areas are being opened for transport of drugs to us, especially through the new Eastern European states. There is a great potential for drug smuggling possibilities, and in the future, we expect even heavier drug traffic.
Besides Teddy and the rest of the K-9 Corps, the Customs Police use both infrared technology and X-ray, as well as physical searches to look inside luggage. With smugglers thinking up new ways of moving drugs across the world, the Zoolauf must keep one step ahead to stay on top. Reporting from Frankfurt, Germany, Sergeant Kelly Rowe, AFN News.
2 Italian soldiers were seriously injured in Somalia yesterday when a hand grenade they were carrying went off in their tent.